Welcome to Conspiracist.
Great to be here.
Today, we're diving into a hypothesis that's, well, quite significant. The idea that governments might be intentionally hiding evidence of cybernetic government overreach.
Yeah, it's a complex topic. We've got a range of sources looking at this from different angles.
We do, from the theory behind cybernetics in governing all the way to specific tech examples and potential problems.
And our mission today, just to be clear for everyone listening, is really to evaluate the reasoning, the evidence presented in these materials.
Exactly. We're keeping it strictly professional, objective.
Yeah.
Just looking at what the sources claim.
Okay, so to start, maybe we should unpack this term, cybernetic government overreach. What does cybernetics even mean in this context?
Good starting point. The sources point to cybernetics as basically the study of control and communication.
Right. In complex systems. Could be living things, could be machines. It's sort of the foundation for what we now call systems thinking.
So it's about processes, feedback loops, how information flows, how systems regulate themselves.
Precisely. And people started applying these ideas to governance quite a while ago.
Yeah, one name that comes up early is Carl Deutsch. Our sources mention his vision for democratic politics using these cybernetic ideas.
His thinking was essentially that governance could be more efficient, maybe even more objective. By relying on, measurable information flows, data, almost seeing it as a way to bypass some of the, messiness of political debate.
So data over deliberation, in a sense.
That was sort of the early vision, and that concept has evolved. Now some talk about neo-cybernetic governance.
Neo-cybernetic. Okay, what's the core idea there?
It's this perspective where technology isn't just a tool for government, it's potentially the main way to coordinate and manage society.
Why that shift? Is it just about complexity? Like, modern society is too complicated for old methods.
That's definitely a big part of the rationale you see in the sources. Managing infrastructure, resources, global issues. Yeah. It's incredibly complex. So proponents argue that technology, with its power to crunch data and automate decisions, offers a more, let's say, rational or efficient path.
Right, like Prague Khanna's idea of a smart state.
Yeah.
Measured by performance indicators.
Exactly. KPIs, data-driven efficiency, or even Beth Noveck's work on using tech to get more people involved in problem solving. It still frames technology platforms as the key mechanism.
Okay, but this reliance on tech, that's where the potential for overreach comes in, isn't it?
Precisely. When the systems designed for efficiency or control might go too far or have unintended consequences.
At one point in our material really stands out this mention of Obama's advisors discussing potential hidden people registry.
Yeah, for people who opt out of technology.
The stated reason was counterterrorism, but, that immediately flags concerns about surveillance, doesn't it? And potentially marginalizing people.
Absolutely. It's a perfect example of how a technologically enabled solution can raise serious questions, and it ties directly into how people might develop technology conspiracy beliefs.
How so? Define that for us based on the sources.
Okay, so technology conspiracy beliefs are defined as endorsing these unverified narratives. Stories where organizations, often powerful ones, are secretly using technology for, evil or harmful goals.
And there's a model for how these beliefs form.
Yes, the take-on-mind model. It suggests it's about perceptions, how people see the technology itself, its performance, ease of use, the risks involved, and how they see the issuer of the technology, like the government. If they perceive the issuer as, say, malevolent and powerful,
then they're more likely to believe the tech is being misused.
That's the idea. So a hidden people registry proposed by a powerful government. You can see how that might fit the narrative for someone already suspicious.
And the model suggests it's a two-way street. Believing tech conspiracies reinforces a general conspiracy mindset, and vice versa.
Exactly. It's seen as potentially a reciprocal relationship.
So you have distrust maybe in institutions, you add complex, maybe opaque technology, and suddenly you have fertile ground for suspicion about hidden agendas.
That seems to be the dynamic the sources explore, which leads us to specific areas where this cybernetic overreach might actually be happening or could happen.
Right. Algorithmic bias seems like a major one.
Definitely. The sources explain this isn't necessarily about someone intending to discriminate. Bias can creep in from the data itself.
How? Like if the data reflects existing inequalities.
Exactly. Unrepresentative data or just flawed information used to train the algorithm. The result is the system producing systematically worse outcomes for certain groups.
Even without malicious intent. Can you give some examples?
Sure. Our materials point to consumer harms, things like biased pricing or unequal opportunities being shown to people online.
Okay.
Advertising is a big one. Platforms allowing advertisers to exclude certain races from seeing housing ads, for instance. That's been reported.
Wow.
Concerns about hiring algorithms potentially screening out qualified candidates from certain groups. And then there are really critical areas like child maltreatment hotline screening, or even decisions about bail and sentencing in the justice system. If the algorithms used there are biased, the consequences are enormous.
Yeah, life-altering. The HUD lawsuit against Facebook is mentioned too, right? Alleging algorithms made housing discrimination worse.
Yes. That's a very prominent case, highlighting potential real-world harm.
One of the big problems here, it seems, is just figuring out why an algorithm made a certain decision. It's often not transparent.
That's a huge challenge. Kate Crawford calls it the problem of closed loops. It's hard to review or correct something when you can't see the internal logic.
Like a black box. You put data in, get a decision out, but the process is hidden.
Pretty much. The Allegheny Family Screening Tool is cited as an example where maybe the limits of the tech weren't fully grasped or communicated.
And it's complex, right? The sources mention trade-offs in achieving fairness. It's not always straightforward.
Definitely not. Different mathematical definitions of fairness can actually conflict with each other. But it's not all negative. There are efforts to fix this.
Such as?
Well, developing computer models specifically designed to try and counteract discriminatory effects. And we also have legal frameworks, like the concept of disparate impact.
From Griggs v. Duke Power.
Right, which says even unintentional discrimination through a seemingly neutral process can be illegal. That potentially applies to algorithms, too.
Okay, so bias is one major concern. What's another big area the sources highlight?
Increased surveillance and data collection. This is a huge theme.
And there's a history here, isn't there?
Right.
Particularly regarding certain communities in the U.S.
Absolutely. The sources point to a long history of over-surveillance of communities of color, from FBI tracking civil rights activists to using aerial surveillance and facial recognition more recently during Black Lives Matter protests, and also the surveillance of Muslim communities, especially after 9/11.
So that historical context probably fuels current anxieties about government tech surveillance.
Very likely. And the sources detail how agencies like IC, DHS, USCIS are using social media surveillance now.
For what purposes?
Things like situational awareness, gathering criminal intelligence, even checking information for immigration applications, sometimes using fake profiles.
Big profiles.
Yeah.
Wow. That raises ethical questions.
Big time. And privacy concerns. Plus, the sources note cases where misinterpreting social media posts led to wrongful arrests or interrogations.
So the potential for error is real and the impact is serious.
And beyond individual errors, there's the constitutional dimension, concerns that broad monitoring could chill free speech or enable discriminatory targeting, potentially violating the First and 14th Amendments.
It's not just social media either, right? What about data sharing between agencies?
That's another layer. Systems like the one mentioned in Los Angeles County, CWMDM, integrate data from various sources. It raises questions about just how much information is being pooled and who oversees it.
It feels like this connects back to those fears around citizen scores, even if it's not exactly like China's system.
Right. The idea that your digital footprint could be used to rank or assess you is definitely present in the concerns raised. The hidden people registry concept touches on that too.
And this fear, this anxiety, it feeds into another area. The erosion of privacy through things like digital IDs and maybe a move towards cashless systems.
Yes. The concern about a cashless society isn't new, but the sources link it to control. If every transaction is digital, it's potentially trackable.
Giving governments or corporations a complete map of your financial life.
And potentially the ability to control it, to restrict payments as a form of punishment, perhaps. That's the fear.
Like aspects of China's social credit system, where access can be denied based on score.
That's the parallel people draw. Although it's worth noting, our sources suggest the Chinese system is maybe less monolithic and more focused on specific violations and blacklists than sometimes portrayed.
Okay, nuance is important. But the potential for control via digital identity is the core concern.
Yes. And with digital IDs specifically, there are worries about inequality. Could they create barriers to accessing essential services?
Like the example mentioned in Indiana.
Potentially, yes. Affecting access to social services. And that's before you even get into cybersecurity risks, data breaches, identity theft associated with large digital ID databases.
And in the U.S., the sources point out there isn't a strong federal data privacy law, and agencies like DHS have quite permissive data handling policies.
which leaves individuals quite vulnerable, arguably. Private companies also face limited restrictions on collecting and using personal data.
So we have bias, surveillance, privacy erosion. What's the final piece of this potential overreach puzzle, according to the sources?
It's about algorithmic control and the reduction of human judgment in how government operates.
Meaning relying too much on AI or automated systems for making decisions.
Exactly. Especially in critical areas like public safety or welfare services. The concern is we might remove human discretion, human nuance, from processes where it's really needed.
And that could impact fundamental rights.
That's the worry. Research cited suggests algorithms can actually change how judges make decisions, sometimes in unexpected ways.
And there's a risk of just trusting the tech too much.
Yes. The phenomenon where people overestimate the accuracy of these systems may be overriding their own doubts because the computer said so.
Which is dangerous if the system itself has flaws or biases we haven't addressed.
Precisely. Especially in high-stakes decisions.
Okay, so pulling this all together.
Yeah.
What are the key factors driving this belief, this hypothesis about concealed cybernetic government overreach?
Well, several things seem to converge based on our sources. First, there's often a baseline perception of governments and large corporations, the usual suspects in these narratives, as potentially malevolent or overly powerful.
A general distrust.
Then you have the technology itself. The lack of transparency, the closed loops and black boxes we talked about makes it hard to scrutinize and easy to suspect hidden motives.
History plays a role too, right? Past examples of government overreach.
Absolutely. The historical surveillance of specific communities provides concrete evidence that governments have misused their power and technology in the past. That lends credibility to current fears.
And the technology does have real capabilities for control. Discussions around social credit, advanced surveillance, and these aren't science fiction anymore.
Right. The potential for technology to be used for social control is demonstrable, which fuels concerns about how it might be used, even if it isn't currently being used that way everywhere.
Finally, just the sheer complexity. It's hard for most people to understand how advanced AI or complex algorithms work.
And that lack of understanding can easily breed suspicion, the feeling that something unseen is going on.
Okay, but it's crucial we also cover the other side. The sources don't only present a negative view, do they? There are counterarguments, nuances.
Definitely. It's important to acknowledge that technology is also used by governments for positive things, improving efficiency, making information more accessible to citizens, automating tedious tasks.
So potential benefits alongside the risks.
Yes. And there are efforts underway to mitigate the risks. Development of ethical guidelines, proposed legislation like the AI in Government Act or the Algorithmic Accountability Act. These aim to address bias and ensure accountability.
What about transparency efforts?
Those are mentioned too, both government initiatives and efforts by companies to adopt global transparency principles, trying to open up those black boxes, essentially.
And things like regulatory sandboxes.
Yeah, particularly in fintech, allowing companies to experiment with new tech under lighter, controlled regulations to see how it works and what the impacts are before wide deployment.
And we touched on the nuance around China's social credit system earlier.
Yeah.
That it's perhaps more focused on legal violations and specific blacklists than a single all-encompassing score.
Right. Understanding the specifics is important to avoid overly simplistic comparisons or conclusions.
So this has been a really deep dive. We've looked at this hypothesis of intentional concealment of cybernetic government overreach by examining the claims around algorithmic bias, surveillance, privacy erosion, and the reduction of human judgment.
And we've considered factors that might make people believe this is happening: distrust, lack of transparency, history, the tech's capabilities.
While also touching on the counterarguments, the benefits of tech, efforts towards regulation and transparency, and the complexities of systems like social credit.
It really highlights the complex relationship between technology, power, and society, doesn't it? The profound impact as tech gets more deeply woven into how we're governed.
It absolutely does. It leaves you wondering, as we push forward with ever more sophisticated AI and data systems in government.
Yeah.
What are the non-negotiable safeguards we need? How do we build in transparency and accountability from the start to prevent the very overreach we've been discussing? That seems like the critical ongoing question.
A question that requires constant vigilance and public engagement, I think, with the tech itself and the power structures deploying it.
Thanks for listening to Conspiracist.